All right, well, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
And this is, of course, Conversations with the Crawlers, where we have conversations about faith, family, relationships, and recaps of some of our favorite shows. And this one is all about...
Ready to Love? Oh, no.
Wow. Hey,
Cut me off guard.
Yeah,
You don't say that.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I got you off guard. But no, this is about Married at First Sight. But Ready to Love is coming back, so you can definitely check out the other playlists that we have as far as videos that we do. So we had the breaking news in our last video about what seems to be a relationship between Zach and Bao. So definitely one of the things that we've started doing here is we do shout outs to one of our subscribers and commenters. So we definitely want to shout out to Sharon F, who put a comment that won't work, talking about Zach and Bao. It's a rebound. They are both broken, trying probably to comfort one another and share their traumas. Yep. Good insight there. We think you might be correct, but we'll see.
We shall see, right?
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see. So again, make sure you're doing the following. Hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, requesting notifications, and there we go. We're working like clockwork on this. All right. On tonight. All right.
Yeah, that's like
so this episode, basically they're 3 weeks away from decision day.
Right. 16 days they put it. So
yeah. So I mean it's close. It's around the corner. So there's some decisions that are going to have to be made. Some folks, in my opinion, have already made their decision.
Yes.
And may have made them, after week 1, if we're honest. Okay. But as we'll talk about, one couple doesn't seem to want honesty out of each other, right? And then they do meet with the experts. So looks like the women meet with Pastor Cal. The guys meet with Dr. Pepper.
Right. I mean, this is the time they normally do that. What's the last questions you need to ask before decision day to know that you're going to make the right decision? So we know that this episode normally comes up around about this time frame. And to see people's answers and being honest to really get the questions answered so they can move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, because listen, this is a lifetime. This is not just a TV event.
No.
You're talking about the rest of your life with this person. So it opens up with Johnny and Ryan having a conversation, right?
Right. They're at the pool table and Johnny realizes like he's kind of negative. I really shouldn't be talking to him. And in their conversation, he indicates that he does spend a lot of time with Ryan.
Right.
So this might help where he gets this lag. Like he spent times with Ryan, then he comes back with all these thoughts, and now all of a sudden him and Bao are in an argument. So maybe that's lining up.
All right. If you saw one of the things that as you were talking about, I just thought about, there was a movie a few years ago called Fallen with Denzel Washington, I think it was. And it was this supernatural type of thing where there was like this demon that kept jumping from person to person.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, that demon jumped off of Ryan and jumped on Johnny. And Johnny was taking it all out on Bao. It was just... literally, you saw them having a conversation, and Bao's like, wait, we're just talking. And Johnny's getting upset.
Right.
He's getting defensive. He's like, you're not listening, da-da-da.
And I'm like, what in the world? It's like night and day. Like, you've had this good week, and now all of a sudden, you had an hour or something with Ryan. Then you come back, and you allowed someone else to affect you.
Right.
And now... all of a sudden, you want to start on foundational stuff and you want to work on a friendship. And she's like, it sounds like we're going backwards.
Right.
But he doesn't take time to process what he's thinking. He's like, I'm going to talk to you and throw up on you what I'm thinking.
And you have to take it. You have to take it. And you got to agree with it, because, or else we got issues.
Right. Because next week, or tomorrow, if I meet Ryan, he might say something else.
Right.
Or I don't meet Ryan and we're good.
Because they had a fun bowling day. We saw a little clip where they had looked like a fun bowling day. And he said it felt natural.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, no, we got to pump the brakes. We need to go back. We don't have a friendship. Well, here's the thing. I think that in this environment, I think that the friendship is going to develop. I mean, we're friends, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that she's like, I think rightfully so. She's like, look, we need to develop that intimacy and develop that romance.
Right.
And then we can work on that the friendship is going to develop once we break down these walls and break down these barriers. So, and then, he says he wants to have the physical stuff. He's doing the physical stuff, just going through the motions.
I'm like, it doesn't seem like he was just going through the motions. It felt like there was passion in it. Mm-hmm. And unless he was acting that, I just don't see. I feel like when people are just going through the motions, the attitude of how they are doing it looks different.
Absolutely.
And so I thought I was seeing passion.
Well, and listen, I don't know if they have a different production crew, but this production crew is all about showing the receipts. They are showing every receipt.
This moment with her. You had this moment with her.
Because when Val wasn't cooking, was talking about she was cooking, production was like, here's the clip, so you're not cooking. Right. When Johnny is like, I'm just going through the motions, production's right there with clips like, nah, bro.
You were licking that belly button.
You had your Barry White going on.
Okay.
You was turn off the lights, love TKO, everything. You was doing it all. So, you know, then he goes into this, we don't have to do this, and he blows up and talking to her. She says, and this is a great observation from Bao, she's like, Johnny is not happy because he doesn't want to be.
Right. I believe that.
He's looking for an excuse.
Right.
So when he meets with Dr. Pepper, I feel he started off by trying to play the victim. Right? He starts off the conversation of, we don't fight well, we get angry with each other, whatever. So he's kind of cushioning what he does in his role in this.
Right.
And makes it seem like Bao is just as negative as he is, just as vicious as he is, and that's not the case, right?
Correct. Because we talked about that in the past, like when we were at the dinner table, you know, and his perspective of her, okay, then maybe she wasn't honest, but this is all about you and making you look bad when it wasn't.
Yeah. And that even brought up a good conversation as far as truth versus perspective.
Yeah.
That, you know, he wants to, you know, this is the truth, whatever. And Dr. Pepper's like, no, perspective is different from truth.
Correct.
Right? Perspective is how you see the truth.
Right.
But the truth is the truth, and it stands on its own, regardless of how you see it.
Correct. And I think his perspective has very much so muddied the truth.
Yeah. His perspective is skewed, in my opinion. Very skewed. She meets with Pastor Cal, of course, and even before she jumps into the meeting, she is like, she's checked out. She feels unappreciated.
Right. She's frustrated. I don't blame her, because it's like one moment, I'm doing all these things, seem happy, and then you come back from Ryan, it just seems like, and now we're in bed, and now you want to do all this stuff, and you need to switch it up, and you need time, but it's not you leaving. And I'm like, if they were dating, I could see why she would be out. Because I would be out. I'd be like, I don't have time for this.
So, yeah, because she's like, this is what he keeps saying, what have you, is a cop-out. And she feels he's already done.
Right. She's like, he's 80% out the door.
Yeah.
You know, so why am I going to keep trying? Because I don't know what he's going to say is true. Because he can say tomorrow that he's happy and everything's going great. Yeah,
because so they do get some homework. Each couple gets homework. And so one of the things they're told to do is kind of go back and talk kind of where they are, what they're feeling, what each other is feeling, not in an accusatory tone, but in a tone of, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm sensing, and asking some hard questions. And she kind of asks him, you know, what's going to make you stay, why, you know, and not run away.
Right.
And he's like, I haven't run away. I just kind of stepped away so I don't say what I really feel.
And I'm like, what? But you've been saying what you've been feeling other times.
Yeah. And so if this is him biting his tongue.
Right. You should have just bit your tongue all the other times.
Yes. Yeah. And then he goes into, why didn't we date for all these 15 years? I knew you. I knew where you were.
Right.
I wasn't attracted to you then.
Right. I was like, hold on. What are you talking about? You said that was your type. Her body, that was your type. You know, you checking her out at the honeymoon.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you were never attracted to her.
Right. And
I'm sorry.
And just to play devil's advocate. Well, just to play devil's advocate, possibly.
I'm hearing you out.
He's referring to he's not attracted to her personality or her who she is as a person. Because if we're honest, you can find someone physically attractive.
That's true.
But be not attracted to them as a person, as an individual.
Well, right? Then he needed to indicate that, because at this point, he's done said everything else about her.
True.
Then he needs to communicate correctly about what he wasn't attracted to.
Yeah.
But Pastor Cal's advice was for Bao was to stay on the surface. So she couldn't dig deeper because he asked her not to, because he can't handle going deep.
Yeah.
Obviously. And I mean, that's a struggle when you have to try to balance how you're feeling to help someone to get over something they don't want to get over. That's the thing.
Johnny is stuck in immaturity. He's a little spoiled kid, in my opinion.
Well, and also you have to think about, here's someone who's always trying to please a father who don't want to be in his life.
Yeah.
And so, and then what we're hearing is that you didn't get the affection from your mother. So there's so much childhood traumas that he hasn't grown. Wherever that trauma started, he is still stuck in that place. What people don't realize, you grow physically.
Right.
You become adult physically, but emotionally, spiritually, he could still be 9. And she indicated that he acts like a child. Yes, because wherever his trauma started, he stopped growing emotionally. And the emotional intelligence he needed to be a 30-year-old man.
Yeah.
We're talking to a 9-year-old child and a 30-man.
And I mean, if you watch his body language, you watch how he responds sometimes, it is the same way that, in my opinion, our son responded when he was 10 years old and didn't get his way.
It's just, or when you feel like you're scorned or you're down, you put your head down. You know, you have this look away. That's typically when you see a child do that. As a grown adult, you want to be able to say, I can face this. I can look at, like, how do I move through this?
Right.
So.
Yeah. But, again, for him not being attracted to her, when she showed up in that cheerleader outfit,
he should have been hugging again.
And she was surprised by it.
I was like, oh, we didn't even come in the same car, but whatever. She was just like, I don't know. It's the cheerleader outfit.
That might be the moment that Zach started. Well, no, I'm going to leave that alone.
And keep it moving.
Keep moving. All right. Well, speaking of demons jumping, right? Brett and Ryan. And again, they start off, he's talking with Johnny about how he's just not feeling it. Like he feels that he's being negative about the progress, that he's negative, right? That he's not really feeling her, right?
He is.
Because I think they've checked out as a couple from after the honeymoon. And that's kind of what even both of them are kind of feeling, is that
I don't think she checked out.
True.
After the honeymoon. She did not check out.
But she's stopping making effort because he's not making effort. Or she's not making as much effort because he's not reciprocating.
Well, I think it's almost like having a codependent relationship. She says she wants him to be open, but she's not ready to hear the truth about what openness would take about herself.
That's true.
So she's holding him back, and he's not being mature enough to say, I need to say this to help both of us. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to help either. You think I got a horn growing out of my head? I don't want to know I got a horn growing out of my head. And I don't know. I have some other things to say, but did you want to get into what Dr. Cal has to say? Or
well, Dr. Cal basically was, in meeting with her, she does say that he's not giving her what she needs.
Right.
Right. And they have no intimate communication. There is no deep
surface
conversation happening between them two, right?
Correct.
And he challenges her to ask the hard questions. When did you know that this thing was not going to work? When did you know that you were checking out of this? When did you stop caring? So he basically is like, ask the hard questions.
Right.
You're going to get the answers that you need.
Right.
Because from Ryan, on Ryan's side, Ryan has basically said also that he doesn't want to, he's a little afraid of hurting her feelings.
Right.
So this is a perfect opportunity for Brett to, as much as she may not want to hear it,
right,
at least get the answers that she's looking for,
right,
by asking the questions that Ryan has the answers for.
Right.
She just needs to ask the questions.
Right. And I think a lot of time for women, and I've been in this place, I didn't want to ask the hard questions because I knew what the answer was. Most of the time we know what the answer is.
Right.
But we don't want to hear the answer, right? Because we don't want to have to deal with the sadness. We don't want to have to deal with the pain that goes with the answer being put in front of us.
Right.
So she hasn't done the work for herself that she needs to say, I got to be able to take the pain of answering, of him answering what I think he's going to answer.
Right.
And even Dr. Cal was saying, well, you may not know exactly when it's going to happen.
Right.
And so you need to ask him up front. But when it came time to do it, she wasn't brave enough to take saying, you know what? It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt because of all the other pains I've experienced when I've been rejected by other men. But this is very important because it's a cop-out to me. Then you go to his sister and ask the questions you were supposed to ask them. And she can't tell you because she wasn't there.
Right.
She needed to ask Ryan. And a lot of times we go around the ranch, we go around the world trying to get to the question.
All around
we ask everybody, right? Except for the person that we need to ask. Sometimes we're just going to have to just take the brunt of it, go ahead and get it over with because you don't have another year.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Speculation at least leaves the door open that I'm wrong. And Brett is holding on to the speculation.
That's good.
She'd rather have the speculation that maybe this is the case, but I could be wrong. Rather than having the definitive answer that no, he don't like me.
Nailed it. Ooh, babe, that's good.
Yeah, my Cash App, I'll put it in the description there. You have to see that too. All right. But yeah, she does, like you said, meet with the sister, and the sister brings something into the conversation that I think may come up a little later. She feels that her brother may be distracted. That because it seemed like if they, and again, production brings up the receipts on the honeymoon, Brett and Ryan seem to be moving forward. They seem to be clicking on all cylinders, right? But then when they got back to Houston, all of a sudden, now it's like, I don't know.
Well, he says when Dr. Vivian came, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the moment.
Yeah.
Where it was like, and then what happened? Britt said, oh, my previous relationship, the guy didn't feel like he was connected to me. She started crying. And then Ryan was like, I can't do it.
I can't do it.
I can't be honest. I can't see no one cry. So none of your other relationships, you never had nothing deep enough someone didn't cry because you had to say something?
Well, remember, he dated half of East Texas, right? So
yeah, so I guess I would assume it never got that far.
Never did. All right. So then Gil and Mirla.
Yes.
So they have been turning into a favorite couple in some respects. But she meets with Dr. Pepper, right?
Lit.
Yeah, she had some 25-cent martinis beforehand.
I've never heard of 25-cent martini. It's like happy hour, I guess.
That's real happy hour. That's ecstatic hour.
Okay. She was like, give me $1 worth.
She came there lit.
She was like, even Dr. Pepper was like, let's go ahead and get the elephant. So you had a party before you came. Not that she came to see friends. You had a party before you came.
Because she came in, evidently she came in even from the wrong side.
She's like, I didn't want to walk that far.
She stumbled in from the wrong side.
I don't want to walk that far. So I guess she was really nervous about meeting with her. And I don't see why, because she has such good things to say.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and drunk Mirla is actually pretty tolerable. I mean, you know, she kind of like old Mary J. Blige, who sounded a lot better sometimes when she had a little too much to. All right. Anyway, but drunk Mirla, really, her guard was let down a lot.
It was. I mean, she even cried. You know, she had some tears coming out.
She was like, I think I'm happy. He's exactly what I. Yeah.
You know, and which is good, right? Because again, in a couple of weeks, you see that she's like, okay, I got to put my walls down.
Mm-hmm.
This man is doing everything. A sledgehammer. Mm-hmm. He's using all his fireman techniques.
Yeah.
To get into the building where she's on fire.
Right.
And so now that, you know, his patience with her
mm-hmm.
starting to really get to her to the point was like, I really do got a good man.
Yeah.
And he's doing everything that's trying to make me happy and be thoughtful.
Right.
Then I need to do my part before I lose this.
But now in his conversation with Pastor Cal, he does bring up the fact that she can be, as we've called her before, she can be a Debbie Downer,
mm-hmm.
right? They can be having a great moment, and then all of a sudden she says something that puts an entire breaking process to it. So so afterwards, they're having that conversation, but she's still a little too drunk to have the conversation, in my opinion. She maneuvers through it, but I don't know how long term the conversation will hold for both of them because she still was, you know, 25-cent martinis was.
I think she recognized and understood what he was trying to get across. Yeah. And I think that's the important thing, that she continues to work on that and that they help each other, right? Yeah. So that both of their needs are getting met, you know, as they continue on in their marriage. So,
and then Rachel and Jose, they were, for the most part, absent this episode. They did have the meeting.
Yeah.
He meets with Dr. Pepper, and in my opinion, again, because that's what matters when I say it.
Okay.
Just like your opinion matters when you say it. All right. But I think, and let me know what you think in the comments, I think he came into the conversation trying to control it. Because immediately when he jumps into the conversation, oh, it was so great. You guys did a phenomenal job. I'm so happy to. So he does this thing because I think I still have issues with Jose. I'm not a Jose fan. So he does this, in my opinion, to try and control the narrative and try and steer the conversation so that hopefully Dr. Pepper doesn't dig into it. However, Dr. Pepper, she's not just a soda. She is a doctor, right? She kind of, in my opinion, sees through that and really gets into, because she calls him out on his controlling nature.
Right. Which I think is good, which make him think like, oh, you know, she's like, you need to give her the opportunity to get into your world.
Right.
And so your perception again of marriage and what a provider looks like this is how I want to provide. Well, maybe your wife doesn't want to provide for you that.
I want you to provide that way.
Right? Because how can you say I want an independent woman and then I want to be the provider?
Right.
So where do you want her to be independent?
Right.
On what she wears, and that's it, and how she eats.
Right.
But nothing else related to
what toothpaste she uses.
Right. But nothing related to the finances, nothing related to how you want to live in her home.
Right.
Because those are still good questions. Because that would be a question for me if I want us to buy another house because I want it to be something that we picked out and we both love.
Right.
And not this being your trophy house of your achievement, but us making an achievement together.
Right.
That I feel like is another question that needs to be answered. Because again, a lot of these couples are not married because of this idea of this is how I'm going to show up to my marriage and this is how I'm going to be to my husband or wife, but you don't know who that person is.
Right.
So you don't know who to be to them because you have not met them yet. So the best thing you could do is be the best you to you.
Right.
And then when you meet that person, you learn how to be the best to them because of what you worked on yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's one of the takeaways, I think, just from Married at First Sight as a whole, and really a lot of these dating and marriage shows, is that there's the idea of what marriage, relationship, love looks like, and then there's the reality, right?
Right, because everyone says it like, oh my God, I have to really work for this. Because I guess did we get to Zach in the
we haven't gotten to them.
Okay, I can talk about that when we get to Zach.
Rachel, and then Rachel, she meets with Pastor Cal, and there was really not a whole lot going on with them this week.
Yeah, they're in a good place, and they need to work through, because even Rachel was like, oh, I need to ask him about his temper. What triggered him that he had to be so vindictive and different stuff like that. So she really tried to say, okay, I don't want to see this type of anger from you.
Right. So I mean, we'll see how they continue to turn out. But then Zach and Michaela.
Yes.
Who, listen, I'm not even going to pretend to predict anymore. They're done. In fact, up in the corner here, you should see a link for the video that we talked about, the breaking news, where it seems like Zach and Bao are dating, and Michaela is the epitome of unbothered. I wish that man best of luck, but he ain't. We ain't together. So they're no longer together in real life. As of this episode, though, they're still trying to work things through, right? So she meets with Pastor Cal, and according to her, she makes a good statement. And again, I think that part of their issue, yes, we can talk about Hurricane Michaela, and we can talk about how Zach is crying like every 5 seconds. We can talk about all those things. I think the one of the biggest things that was a barrier for them was the fact that they did not get a chance to connect on a honeymoon because Zach had COVID and they had to be apart. The other things, yes, play into that. I think there's other things that took place and are taking place that are driving a wedge between them. But I think that is one of the big things that kind of started that crack in that fissure.
Yeah, I think it's just they just being childish. You know, they indicated.
Or what she said, yeah.
I mean, pretty much.
So, and she says that they only had 1 week of a good time because they've been fighting, and then they have a moment, and then they're back to fighting, right? Yeah. She asks, and the question that she kind of talked with Pastor Cal about was, what was the image of marriage that Zach had, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this great conversation about basically, because she's like, she wants Zach to be happy, but she doesn't want that happiness to have anything to do with her. She wants him to be a happy person, period. And then they can be married. They're married. And Pastor Cal brings up a great point that why wouldn't he be a source? Why wouldn't you be a source of his happiness? Not saying that he's totally dependent upon you to be happy, but why wouldn't you be a source of his happiness and you be a source for him?
Right.
And then he meets with Dr. Pepper. Go ahead.
Right. Well, and then, you know, he starts to have this discovery, right? That he has this ideal marriage.
Yeah.
And that he's a perfectionist. And he's done this on the course of his life. And he's realizing a lot of his relationships didn't work because he has this big idea of like, you know, oh my God, this is so much work. And, you know, I wasn't expecting this and had to fight for this. You know, he makes a statement, and I can't remember.
He basically said he wanted to be, he thinks that the marriage should be meant to be.
Yes.
And he's like, rather than choosing to make the marriage work.
Right. And I'm like, whoa.
Wait, all the married folks right now, just go ahead and look at your screen right now and give them the side eye.
I was like, we got to come out of fantasy, you know, because that's when people say, oh, I met my soulmate, you know. I personally don't believe that. I believe, yeah, you're more attracted to other people, you more connect in other ways, but you do have to make a choice.
Yep.
And what's meant to be doesn't mean that it's a good thing, you know, because you have to say, you didn't do this. You can make this up. Well, this was meant to be because you allowed experts to come in and do this for you to meet this person. So that I was just feeling like, whoa, you are really in the clouds.
Yes.
I mean, there's no other way to say this. It's almost boggling to me, but because I feel like I did that when I was in high school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like this ideal of a boyfriend and being in a relationship and everything. But, I mean, pretty much it was like junior year. I was like, these jokers out here, these guys, if this is how I had to, because you have to get out of reality.
The Maryland brothers did not.
Listen, DC, Maryland, wherever you think, Virginia,
PG County, yeah.
PG County, it was just like, okay, I need to get out of the clouds because I'm not listening to what these people are saying to me. Right. You know, they saying they want to be with me, and then I see them in the hallway with someone else, and they're kissing up on them. So I feel like before I could get out of high school, I had to have realistic, get my head out of the clouds, listen to what people are saying, and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so to be 27 and feel like, oh, it's just going to be this surreal moment that you see in the movies, and you're like, well, dang.
And here's the thing, it's not just Zach, because we also heard it from Ryan.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it is a common, I won't say common, but it is a prevailing thought or mindset that we see, in my opinion, far too often. And it's just, it does not help the process. And this is, in my opinion, part of the vetting process, part of when you're having these conversations, seeing who's a fit, who's not a fit. If they start spouting off this stuff about, oh, you know, this is who is meant to be, this is my soulmate, I'm looking for my soulmate. Listen, I personally am not also a fan of the soulmate conversation, because that just means that it was just from the beginning of time what was destined to be. And I don't necessarily believe that. I think that you have opportunities, and I forgot which one it was, but one of the experts basically talked about you have these opportune moments.
Yes.
I think it was Dr. Pepper. She's like, you have these opportunities, and what you make of that opportunity is what you get.
Right.
You have these raw materials, these raw tools.
Right.
And yes, you can make something great of it, or you can destroy it. So a marriage is the same way. You can make a great marriage if you work at it, or you can destroy it. Now, understand, there's different, and I think it takes two to tango. If one person is checked out and they are not working taking the opportunity, then yeah, the marriage is not going to work, no matter how much another person will put the effort in.
Right.
And so they do have a good conversation about her guard still being up, and things of that nature, right?
Right. And then maybe him changing his language so it don't sound definite, because everything is definite. It's, you know, to the extreme. And so they talk through it after they meet together. Yeah. But then they're on the way home.
Well, they go and they play volleyball. They have this whole big volleyball outing with everybody that you saw, right? But then it's like, okay, they get home, and Michaela basically, well, from what we can make out, she makes a statement of, I don't want to sleep in the same bed with you, because I guess during their conversation,
both of them said no.
If like decision day were today, no.
And they were like, no.
Now, Michaela, this is where it's like, okay, your words aren't forming right. I don't know what's going on with you. Because she's like, Zach is like, you said no. She's like, I don't know. And then she says something about, I said no, but I don't know. And so it's like...
Right, because what he indicated, he said, well, I don't understand why you don't want to stay in the same bed now, because almost every day they're checking in about decision day.
Right.
And he said, every day it changes. So what makes today different than any other day when we're unsure about decision day that we can stay in the same bed? And she was like, well, tonight I don't want to sleep in the same bed.
She's like, what's the use, right?
What's the use? Because I think he should have took more time to say, okay, are we going back to the conversation that we had earlier about you're not feeling secure?
Right.
So we're saying things thinking that we're still on the same page about how we're feeling.
Right.
But now you were open about being concerned about being not secure.
Right.
Instead of, again, it's taking that time, because when you're in the midst of the thought, you're like, okay, we're regular, we're good again. But then something changes in that person because of what they've heard or what they've experienced or what they're going through that day.
Yep.
And then that moment, once it switch up on you, you're like, whoa. Switch. Right? And so he didn't know how to handle it. Yeah. And he was like, well, then I'll leave and just leave.
Right.
When those are the moments saying, you know what? I'm going to show you that I'm going to be here. I'm going to be the security you said that you need to trust that I'm trying to stay and work on the relationship. And what we realize is that when we don't follow through on what the person is asking us and we're saying we're committed to that,
right,
is when the opportunity comes to show it.
Yep.
We don't show it.
Yep. So he goes home. Then looks like the next day, they were doing a Zoom call. And, you know, he texted her. She texted back. She moved out. She took the seasonings, moved out.
She was like, oh, you want to talk about how I season or don't season stuff? I know how you love the season stuff.
She took that ancho chili seasoning. She took that seasonal salt. She's like, I got the black peppercorns, the cumin, you whatever it is, I got it.
Take the oil. You got no butter to cook with.
Right.
I'm just going to dump the
sitting there with some Morton salt and that's it.
Right. Like, hold on. So it's like, you like, oh, she gone. Wow. She took her stuff. Let me fix something. Oh. I got no season to cook with.
Well, with our kids, there have been times where we tried to cook and it's like, man, I'm mad because I don't have my seasonings. I don't have my spices.
Right. Or you go look for a season and then it's gone.
And I smoke. I do, you know, briskets and stuff. And my son one time got into my rub.
You needed just a little sprinkle.
I was mad because I was all set to put my rub on. That joker used it for some like chicken or hot dogs. I was like, okay. All right. But it looks like we're about to have landfall for Hurricane K. If you look at the trailer for the next episode, Hurricane Michaela is making landfall, y'all.
It's very disappointing. We haven't even got there yet. I don't know what is going on this ranch.
Right.
And but it's
at least she shows up to the ranch. At least all the couples are there.
They're
right?
there. And obviously, again, they probably worked through that situation. Right.
But something set her off.
Something happened again. And if my thing is, when you know you have an issue like this, where you're going to really act out and you don't even care if it's in front of people, that's something you definitely need to make sure you take the therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you can't even keep it in where you can keep it in your house,
right,
then you need to see someone.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, that's it for this episode of Married at First Sight. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, hit the like button, request notifications, and share. And we will see you again next time. Again, meet us in the comments. And we got the community tab now, so make sure you're checking out the community tab. We'll put updates there. We might put some polls out there and do a lot of different things to engage with you guys. So again, have a great one. See you next time. Be blessed.
Thanks, KT Squad.
What's up, KT Scott? All right, have a good one.